We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by GrokTALK.com, New Hampshire's conservative website. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone-stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for 2 hours of news and opinion you could only get from GrokTALK.com. GrokTALk. Welcome back to your latest edition of GrokTALK, where we'd like to say with Republicans like these, who needs Democrats?
That's right.
Yeah.
He's lost his train of thought. Folks,
it's been an interesting last 36 hours, let's just say that. It really has. Anyway, before we get into that, and we will get into it, I wanted to welcome, first of all, to our lovely podcast, now live streaming from 8 North Main Street, Concord. I know it doesn't look like much, but it's our contribution to the new media militia, I guess we could call ourselves.
Well, that's one way of doing it.
And this week, joining us on the program, Kevin Bloom will be here, along with Mark Warden, to talk about HB 1609, which is civil asset forfeiture, working on prohibiting the state from just seizing your property because they want to, basically, claiming that it was used in some illegal activity. Carla Garicki and Ian Underwood will be here after that. Carla is the president of the Free State Project, so Democrats and bureaucrats all over Concord will be getting out their garlic and whatever it is they use for crosses, because they don't usually use those, to fend themselves off from the Free State Project.
Well, certainly the Democrats will be here in full pitchfork mode because, you know, it used to be the Tea Party. Now it's the Free Staters that are the dirty phrase of the campaigns now. Everybody's a Free Stater, whether you know what that means or not.
Oh, I know. I remember, in the 2012 elections, we were making jokes. I'm like, they're going to start calling me a Free Stater because they just, everybody's a Free Stater. Everybody's connected to Free Staters. They know Free Staters. Oh, my God. I know lots of Free Staters. They're great. I'd like all 20,000 of them to hurry up and get their butts in our state as soon as possible.
Yeah, as opposed to the person who made the comment, well, we should take people's freedoms away so that they won't come here.
That would be Cynthia Chase.
That's correct.
Democrat from Rhode Island.
Yes, it's okay for their ideology to become topmost here in New Hampshire, but nobody else's. That's the Democrat way, the progressive way. Shut up and do what we want you to.
Oh, yeah, Mike's here. Hey, Mike.
He's on line 1.
I am on line 1.
Mike?
You there? Hang on. Try again. Mike?
I am here.
Hey, there he is.
Mike is working hard on the left coast. How's it going there, Mike?
Well, actually, I just got back from the West Coast. My plane was a little late. Otherwise, I'd have been with you guys this morning.
So where are you exactly?
I am en route from the airport to home.
Ah, okay. Well, that sounds good. Hopefully you will be able to talk with us for a little bit before our guests come in. And just please don't have an accident while you're talking and driving. After all, the Democrats want to take that freedom away from you, too.
They do, but they'd be hard put to do this unless they count conversation with the limo driver as dangerous to one or the other of us, which I saw in Steve's point about all conversations are equally dangerous, and that conversation on a hands-free doesn't count as any more dangerous than a passenger. And since one of my car accidents in my youth was caused by the other driver arguing with his wife and then swerving into my path, I have a first-hand witness to that.
Well, yeah, we're talking about a bill that's in the New Hampshire legislature that would ban holding your phone, basically, and having a conversation. And I've been... people are saying, oh, it's bad. It's just, I've been following this data for years for no particular reason. I was just curious about crash statistics going way back into the 90s. And back then, they used to actually have pretty clear statements that indicated that having a conversation in your vehicle with another person was just as much of a distraction as just about everything else that you can do in your car. And so now we have this bill that wants to ban the use of a cell phone with your hand, as opposed to hands-free. And the assumption is that this will in some way reduce distracted driving, which of course is total nonsense, because you can go all the way back through driving history, and distracted driving is based on human beings, not the things you stick in their car. And the data still states, and they're a little bit more wishy-washy about it now, if you go to the NHTSA, the New Hampshire Transportation Safety Administration's website, and you do research, their statement on this is that while there are studies that state that having a conversation is more of a distraction, there are also studies that state that using a cell phone is more of a distraction, so they kind of cancel each other out. What they're really saying is they can't say definitively if a cell phone is more of a distraction than talking to someone in a car, which, as Mike pointed out, having read my post, hands-free wouldn't be any different than a conversation with somebody in the car. A conversation with somebody in the car clearly wouldn't be any different, and having a cell phone next to your head wouldn't be any different. So the Democrats' response to this, and any Republicans who tend to support it, would be that let's punish everybody for something that'll do nothing.
Well, sure, and ultimately, if they go the whole hog, they'll confine all of us to automatically driven bubble cars with single occupancy, so that we can't converse with our family members.
And you know, that's where it is going to go. And while I like the idea that if I have the freedom to choose to go hands-free, and I think the technology is going to be here fairly soon, certainly much sooner than the legal framework that bureaucrats and elected officials are going to wrap around this whole thing. And now the vehicle-to-vehicle communication that's just been announced by the Federal Department of Transportation, I look at this and go, and how much further is government going to intrude into our lives? And I also look at it as, given what we already know about the NSA, the DEA, the FBI, the fusion centers, and a whole lot of other folks that are watching, and the Dodd-Frank's Consumer Protection Bureau that's monitoring almost all of our financial transactions now. Thank you, Senator Brown, for voting for this thing out of Massachusetts.
And yes, I do buy a lot of anime.
Yeah.
For my kids.
Yeah. So
but anyways, it's a case of now they're going to stop monitoring us in our cars, and I keep waiting for the idea of, oh, well, we'll never do that. We'll never track you in your cars, yada, yada, yada. It's just the slippery slope that we keep seeing happening over and over and over again. Wait till the government decides, well, we have to prevent you from causing an accident. We're going to have a kill switch for your car.
They already have those in Europe. Somebody's introducing them, isn't it? I just saw that this week.
I hadn't seen that.
Mike, did you see something like that?
No, I haven't, but now you said it, I'm going to research it.
Well, you are in a limo. You can do that.
Yeah, exactly. So, let's sort of go over a couple of these things here, because there's some interesting concepts. First of all, the British have a term in law of driving without due care and attention, which is a fancy way of saying what Americans call distracted driving, which means combing your hair, putting on your makeup, reaching down and adjusting the radio, the climate controls, or anything, in fact, which causes you to take your eyes off the road. And who amongst us hasn't seen the driver turn to talk to their passenger with their head sideways more than it's forward? Some do that. And, personally, the difference, I think, between having the passenger in the car who you glance at occasionally or being on a cell phone, you tend to have mental pictures of either the person you're talking to or the thing you're talking about. Even though you're looking straight ahead at the road, it's kind of like having a heads-up display. You think, you're seeing two things at once, and that takes a little edge off. You just got to be careful what you do. You increase your space to the car in front. And let us not forget, being a radio ham, I'm familiar with driving with a handheld microphone, long before they had any kind of hands-free devices. The police, of course, drive with handheld microphones. They, of course, being superhuman and able to lord it over us because, hey, they can do these things safely and we can't.
Yeah, the thing that, we have that concept here just in conjunction with what you call the British law of distracted driving. We just call it distracted driving. But now it seems like progressives and some Republicans or progressive Republicans are trying to micromanage all of the laws. Well, distracted driving. How many things can we talk about there? We've always said, well, then they should take radios out of the cars. They should ban drinking of liquids in the car, eating, talking to your passengers,
personal
yada, yada,
care,
yada.
your children. There is no limit. And let's take it to its logical conclusion. Leaf peeping is out. Okay, so New Hampshire Tourism takes a shot. You can't look at anything outside your vehicle other than the road and the traffic. Now, as a point of frame of reference, I drove for UPS part-time on weekends and sometimes during the week for 8 or 9 years. So I've had some professional driving experience. And I can tell you a lot of things about what you need to do when you're focusing on the task at hand, which is not taking a truck full of stuff and hitting things with it. Really, that's pretty much what it boils down to. And there are some basic skills.
Ask.
That's really the job. Don't hit anything. Don't get hit by anything. Really, every time you leave your house, you're just going to get from A to B to C or to D or whatever, and your goal is to not hit anything or not get hit by anything. Really, that's it. I mean,
professional truckers see all sorts of stuff too. The tales I heard from some of those, and they grit their teeth as the little four-wheel roller skates scoot across the front of them, and they somehow manage to avoid squashing them.
Well, that's just it. People don't understand that a truck that has $20,000 worth of stuff in it needs more following distance because it needs more braking distance. There's basic concepts of the drive coefficients of road surfaces, tire wear, brake condition, operating capacity, your personal whether you're alert, whether you're tired, with all these things that you were talking about earlier, play into the role of the driver into determining what is a safe following distance and how aware they are of their surroundings and how they respond to that. That's a human condition. You can't regulate that out of existence. It's physically impossible. So you can't just take items randomly out of the cabin of a vehicle and expect it to have a long-term effect on fatalities and collisions. And now I reported, since the cell phone generation started, cell phones are ubiquitous. And collisions have gone down about 1 million a year, and fatalities have gone down about 10,000 a year. And there may be other reasons for that, but if you take that into consideration when you talk about the distraction of a person in the vehicle with you, the cell phone ban's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, well, the accidents per whatever many passenger miles has continued to decline since the introduction of the car radio, the cell phone, and just about everything else. And that leads to one of my favorite hobby horses. It's not the thing that's the problem, it's the person. If they're going to do something stupid, they're going to do something stupid anyway. At which point, your question becomes, what am I prosecuting here? Am I prosecuting for the thing or its possession, or am I prosecuting for stupid behavior? Whether that's for distracted driving while under the influence of a joint instead of a drink. I don't care that the guy has a joint. I care that he has a joint and drives. And if he's stupid, he should end up in jail.
You bring up a very important point, which really gets to the nub of exactly what's going on here. You cannot legislate out morality or stupidity, and yet, as we have heard and I've posted many times, there are Democrats who have said on the floor of the Hall of Representatives here in New Hampshire, the purpose of government is to protect us from our own stupidity. Progressives believe that they can enlighten the rest of us, and they try to do it with passing laws, and more laws as they go along, thinking that if they pass enough laws, they will make us all righteous. And the problem is that's never going to work. They don't understand that you cannot legislate all behavior. That change in behavior that they might want can't come just from the external bars of laws and regulations that they put into place, but only by changing the heart of a man internally, or the way, that's really what it comes down to. Yet they keep trying over and over and over again, and it just fails over and over again.
We're going to take a quick break here, Mike. Hang on a second.
Sure.
And we'll be back in, 60 seconds or so? What do you think?
Yeah,
good?
That's good.
And we're going to come back and talk about Senate Republicans. A good deal.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
GrokTALK is 2 hours of news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com. But don't limit yourself to GrokTALK. Check us out at GraniteGrok.com. Follow us on Facebook or Twitter by searching Granite Grok. That GrokTALK was really loud. Sorry, I thought I fixed that. Okay, well, hey, we're back, and we've got Mike on the phone because he couldn't be with us in studio. He's traveling in style on his way from the airport, which is always a fun adventure at the airport. But we're going to stop talking about traveling in cars and moving forward because we have some things that we need to rant about. We have this thing in New Hampshire that's called the New Hampshire Republican Majority State Senate. As I opened with at the beginning of the show, with Republicans like these, who needs Democrats?
Yeah, we're not thrilled, as you can well tell.
Yeah.
What has happened is that we thought that we had persuaded Republicans that expanding Medicaid here in the state of New Hampshire was not a swift idea at all, because it really is nothing more than the expansion of government, the expansion of the spending of government, the expansion of government into people's lives. And in fact, there's a whole bunch of stuff, more taxes, more spending, and
not to mention the fact that you can never sunset this stuff, even though they've written it in there or they're saying they're going to write it in there. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's basically just a bad deal all the way around. In fact, as Steve said, the federal government has said that they promise. Now, this is coming from the administration whose every campaign promise has an expiration date in the past, that they were going to, they'll provide funding for the first 3 years at 100%, and then it drops to 90%. Well, yeah, they said that for special education as well, and that worked out so well for us here in New Hampshire, didn't it? And so after...
New Hampshire special education absorbs most of our budget after... payroll and benefits. I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, that sunk to about 17%, didn't it?
Yeah, it's down there at some point. But it's just the case of, as I've been writing about before, consistency breeds trust, and trust will yield votes. But how do we measure what a good Republican is? Well, we have the Republican platform, and we've said this over and over and over again, both here on Granite Grok as here on GrokTALK. And yet these rogue state senators who believe that by carrying out the Democrat issues is going to earn them the undying faith and love of the public is just totally misguided, because as I listed this week, in fact Friday or Thursday when it came out, they've broken half of the planks in the Republican Party. Now, we're always being excoriated, us at Granite Grok, for calling out people that we declare to be rhinos. Well, when you break half the planks, that's less than the vaunted Reagan 70 to 80%. That's like you're at 40%.
It doesn't leave you much to stand on, does it?
No, it doesn't. And it's like...
And we can only hope that they end up with splinters in their posteriors.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Or getting whacked by with those same planks by those of us who actually think they mean something.
Remember, swinging lumber is the purview of Maggie Hassan and the Democrats. Let's just...
Yeah, well, that might be a habit I'd like to pick up right about now. And I'm not planning on swatting their behinds with it either. But,
Two words. Primary opponent. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Well, and I look at this and go, why have they done this? And I've given this, several hours of thought since the news came out this week. The only thing I can think of is that they wish to promote their own personal political careers by attracting independents and Democrats, rather than standing firm with the Republican Party. And in that post, I went, how have they screwed over the Republicans? And there's more than a few things that they've done, most of which is by handing Maggie Hassan, the Democrat governor here in New Hampshire, basically a bloodless win by carrying her water for her. They've basically screwed over the governorship of any Republican that was against Medicaid expansion, and in this case, Andrew Hemingway. Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they've gone from being the welfare collectors for the tax collectors for the welfare state to being the expanders of the welfare state. They have gone so far beyond what we even castigated Bob Dole for that it's really hard to believe. And they really have morphed as legislators. They believe that they are our betters, and they owe it to us to lead us in the direction that they think best. And that's not what we sent them there for. We sent them there to make the minimum necessary laws, to run the state functions, and to balance the budget. And they aren't very good at any of those.
Right, and you hit it right on the head, that they believe they should be leading us in the right direction. You know what that's called? Progressivism. Mm-hmm. And this proves that there are progressives in the Republican Party, just like there are the Democrats. And what else it proves is that I've been calling some of these folks to their faces, and they are not amused when I do this, the junior partners of the Democrat Party. And now I came up with the phrase, the least lackeys of the welfare state. And frankly, it fits now because I haven't had to make this stuff up. If they're going to do it, they're going to get excoriated for it. I mean, they've done it. If it wasn't for the fact that they've done it, we'd have nothing to say. But the fact that they keep doing things like this just keeps giving us more and more fodder, and they don't seem to understand that we are not going to ignore what they do.
By the way, masterful Photoshop of that cartoon with the Jeb Bradley and Chuck Morse looking over Obama's shoulders as he champions Obamacare right next to LBJ. I thought that was a great Photoshop there, guys.
Yeah, well, considering that I barely got through intermediate stick figures in junior high school, that's about as good as I'm going to get. But, it does show. He's right there. That putting in socialized medicine, a.k.a. Obamacare, of which Medicaid expansion is part of, that's the last big step for progressivism. And progressivism, if you can't remember, is that foreign political philosophy that says you are too dumb and life is too complicated for you to run your own life, so we will do it for you. As if merely getting elected or appointed into the government bureaucracy automatically heightens your IQ by 60 points. I've never understood that.
Yeah, just as becoming a police officer heightens your driving skills to the point where rules about distracted driving don't apply to them.
Yep, you got it. And that's not the only thing they did. We've had the Medicaid expansion grassroots barrage going on for weeks, since last session, really, when the Senate tabled it. And, of course...
And isn't it true that AFP has been part of that grassroots effort, and now we have the incumbency protection people are now trying to find ways to stifle grassroots groups?
That's where I was going. The Democrats, well, it's kind of true. The Republicans, oops, the Republicans in the Senate are grasping both sides of this whole debate and running forward with Medicaid expansion. And now there are rumblings that SB 120, which rumbled its way around in the Senate last year, sponsored by Jeb Bradley and Senator Carson, which is a bill designed to affect campaign finance, basically what's defined as a committee, what's defined as an expenditure. We apparently we did waste it, a lot of ink on this last spring when it first came out, and now they're looking at resurrecting it and pushing it out into the House, where it will most certainly be passed, because Democrats love this bill. Basically what it does is it redefines committees and expenditures to a degree that would make almost anyone and everyone a committee, and almost any action an expenditure. So what you really end up doing is reducing the number of players on the field when it comes to political speech to people who know they are already a committee and know their expenditures are political and are more than likely to have the financial support to back up any challenge to their forms of different kinds of political speech. So say you're just a business owner and you say something or you make the most important part of this bill is it doesn't just affect campaigns, it also affects legislation. So if you were talking about a bill or a measure or something that's going on in the State House or in the Senate, and you want to talk about it and you want to complain about it or you want to support it, these rules apply to you as well. So if you just want to make a statement about, say, HB 1609, which we'll be talking about in a few minutes with Kevin and Mark, who've just entered the room, then you would need you might have to be a committee. You might have to register if you and Skip and I, for example, decide we want to invest some of our time and energy in
sending out a flyer,
or just supporting the bill. Now, the way the bill's written, as far as I've read it, who's going to determine what we've done and what we use accounts as an expenditure for for determining whether or not we've spent too much money and have failed to become a committee. The most important part about that is this: that doesn't matter. All the big players, the people with the lawyers and the money, the Kathy Sullivans of the world, will file suits or charges against you, just under the supposition that if they do it often enough, they'll shut everybody else up. And that's exactly what will happen.
And that's what started to happen before the Citizens United decision, where the FEC would penalize small groups trying to do advocacy work because they could, and the big groups that had the lawyers got away with it. And let's make no mistake here. Jeb Bradley is only about Jeb Bradley, but Sharon Carson is a shill for the unions. So basically what we've got here is the progressives and the socialists taking care of their own turf while making it harder for us to take out advocacy ads or even potentially even write articles about them.
Don't be afraid to sugarcoat, really.
Well, let me sugarcoat just a little bit more. Scuttlebutt says that part of the reason why
You got 45 seconds, by the way.
Jeb Bradley is doing this is that he's still miffed from the time that AFP, Americans for Prosperity, decided to run ads against some of what he was standing for. And here's the political retribution, just like the Obama IRS against the Tea Party. Supporting Obama's Medicaid expansion, supporting Obama's IRS administration. Gee, what does that paint Jeb as? Guess who's going to have the target painted on our backs now?
Mm-hmm.
And Sharon Carson's the same way. She's still ticked about the little groups and the people who went after her in her last election. So now they're going to use the power of government to silence dissent. And I'm not afraid to say it.
And there's a lot of collateral damage. Now, I spoke to Senator. I don't usually waste my time talking to politicians who are in elected office unless they come to me want to talk about an issue that's important to them, blah, blah, blah. Well, they did. She reached out to me. Her concern, she said, was these flyers that show up on Election Day that smear you, that people see before they go to vote. I don't care about that. That's speech. That's how the game is played. That's what you have to deal with. That's where we are. And if you don't like it, get out.
And that's what she's entitled to do against her opponents, too.
Right, absolutely. So, Mike, I'm going to cut you off because we're getting to the end of the segment. We're going to come back with Kevin Bloom and Mark Warden to talk about HB 1609, which is about civil asset forfeiture and whatever else happens to come up in that segment. And after that, we will have Carla Garicki and Ian Underwood with us. This is GrokTALK.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
The Center for Redress of Grievances, LLC, was established officially November of 2012 for the purpose of becoming a media outlet for those individuals who believe and have documentation that they've been unjustly treated by local, state, or federal government agencies. Our mission is to document their stories and to get them out to the public. By collecting and organizing this data, the Center for Redress will be able to better show the public and our legislature that there are issues with some of our government agencies that may be widespread and need to be addressed. Although we are not a nonprofit, we do provide all of our services at no cost to our clients. All of our services may include screening interviews, documentation gathering, audio video of court hearings, and production of Speak Up, which is our television show. We're funded exclusively through sponsorship of Speak Up and our advertisers on our website. We hope to help those individuals who, with well-documented stories, need to be heard with credibility when the other agencies and media sources turn a deaf ear to them. You can go to our website at www.centerforredress.com and check us out. Anything you would like to donate is truly appreciated, and we will put it to good use.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning. You're listening to GrokTALK.
Grok TV.